Welcome to the Exit Coach Radio Show, the show for baby boomer business owners who are looking for cutting-edge information as they plan their 3 to 10-year business succession and exit. Every week, we interview top professional advisors for their best tips, strategies, and precautions, so you can be well-planned. And don't miss our 1-minute Exit Coach tip of the day on exitcoachradio.com. And now, here's your host, the Exit Coach, Bill Black.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Hey, we have a great show, great lineup today, and we're going to start with a past guest who's been with us before, Barry Moniak from End in Mind in Salt Lake City. And Barry is a Vistage speaker. That means he speaks with a group called Vistage International at their CEO peer groups all over the country. And he's an organizational therapist at End in Mind. And his topic today is going to be synergistic culture. And again, we talked about this. We started to talk about this before. We got as far as we could in 20 minutes. We're going to take it a little bit further. So let me get Barry on the line. Barry, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Very pleasure to have you back. Last time we talked a lot about synergy and thinking about like your title of your company, the end in mind, how you can move towards certain goals in a synergistic manner. Tell our listeners again, if you will, a little bit about how you came to start End in Mind and what it's all about.
Well, what I found is that people in life, but especially in business, they put so much time, energy, and money towards accomplishing goals, getting where they're hoping to get, and failing miserably. And so they buy the next book, they buy the next program, go to the next workshop or seminar, and they're not getting the success that they think they should, nor did I think they should. And so I started really looking at what is it that people who are getting the results are doing, and regardless of the realm that they were in, whether it was sports or special forces or business, entertainment, they were using very similar strategies. And I'm like, okay, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just have to look at the people who are getting the results and start modeling their behavior. Well, they knew where they were. They had a pretty darn good idea of where they wanted to go, and then they could strategically start figuring out how to get there and set up the accountability protocols like a GPS system that lets us know if we're going off course, that we need to correct and get back on course. And guess what? People who did that more often got where they had hoped to go more often. Like, okay, why don't we start doing more of that?
Makes a lot of sense. And so some of the common factors, were they things like people just gave up too soon and they got into this valley of despair and never crawled out of it?
Well, it could be that they really had no realistic idea of where they were at. So they thought more highly of themselves or their business than maybe it really was. You can take a car that could drive on the freeway at 60, 70, even 80 miles an hour almost all day long, and it's not going to have a problem. You take that car up to 110, 120 miles an hour, how many hours before you're likely to have an issue? Because the car wasn't designed, wasn't built to handle that kind of speed. So businesses want to ramp up. We want more sales, more this, more that. It's like, well, that's great, but do we have a vehicle that's capable of doing that? So if that really is our goal, why not build the vehicle? I could take a stock car and take it to a race mechanic and ask the question, what would I have to do to drive this car at 120 miles an hour all day long? And they would be able to look at it and go, oh, well, maybe there's some things with the suspension or the steering or the this or the that. From the outside, it would look identical. But on the inside, you've got a better built machine.
So that's a great analogy. That really makes a clear point that sometimes what we want, we maybe not quite have the design to get it. And one of the ways to get that is to partner up or to find synergistic types of relationships. And one of the things we're going to talk about is a synergistic outcome. What does it take to have a synergistic outcome?
That's the elusive component, because people think, well, if we get enough people together and they're all of the right mind, then it should work. Well, not necessarily. To produce that synergy where the whole is actually greater than the sum of its parts, the parts need to work together. They need to interact in such a way that would produce that more, or what we're calling a synergistic outcome. That involves people working together more interdependently. They have more skin in the game. They're more involved with each other, and that brings up the degree of difficulty. Is by and large, we don't like getting that intimate with people. And yet, if you look at the most successful endeavors, whether it's business or sports or a medical team, a special forces team, these people get real close. They get into each other's heads and their hearts and their guts, and they understand one another in such a way that when they work together, they're able to produce a greater result. So again, I don't feel like I'm reinventing the wheel here. I'm just looking at the people who are doing it going, well, why don't we do more of what they're doing? And then you go into a typical business environment and you see how people assume things about one another rather than finding out, well, is that true? Even if it's something that we both do. Oh, we both like coffee. Yeah, we've got that in common. What do we have in common? I don't know why you drink coffee and you don't know why I do. But a simple conversation would shed some light on that.
So what I think I hear you're saying is that synergy is not a noun, it's a verb.
Exactly.
There needs to be, right? It needs to be action applied to synergy for it to just saying, yeah, you're in this business and I'm in that business and this should work doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to put the work in to see the outcome of synergistic work. And are there specific ways to approach that are different than just saying, we'll have a working relationship and it's going to be great. I mean, are there specific ways to attack a synergistic relationship that you found?
Well, yes, and unfortunately, no. In terms of it's a force. It's a law of physics, just like the force of gravity or polarity or magnetism. You can't do something that causes gravity to work, but you can understand what it is and align with it or not. So getting to know people more so that you have a better understanding of who you're working with, how they work, how you're throwing the ball back and forth, that is a specific, but depending on who you're doing it with, that might look differently. So when we go into the workplace and we see how men have all these biases towards women and women have biases towards men, and older people towards younger and younger towards old, and all of these different things, and yet if what we wanted to end up with was a more synergistic outcome, then we need to be able to look at it more objectively and go, what is it that we each bring to this endeavor that could make us produce that kind of a synergistic outcome? You look at things differently. Oh, you're a different gender, so you might have a different vantage point. You're older or younger. You might come at this from a different angle. People who are more willing to put the two or more factions together to see what they might come up with, there's a much greater likelihood they're going to produce a synergistic result. If I just stand behind my bias, oh, well, you're this or that, and so there's no way this could work, well, then guess what? It won't.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that before you do something, sit there. Don't just do something, sit there, figure it out, get deep into it, have conversations and figure out beyond the surface level, beneath the surface level, what are the reasons why this synergistic relationship should take root and work, and how do we best take advantage of that? So learning each other's language and learning what's important to each other is certainly important there, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And so I would
That's
just
great.
replace the should with could. When people work together more interdependently, there's a greater likelihood that something good would come of it. A salesman, I can talk to you all day long about how great my product or service is, because it really, really is. but I'm just beating you up with facts and information. If I was to invest, I don't have to go that deep, but if I was to just open up a dialogue, so who are you and what do you do and this and that. I had a client once that had a sales training program, and he wanted to test it, so he went to a used car lot, one of the toughest sales markets we know of, and he just wanted to try it out. Well, people would come up and, oh yeah, this is looking cool, and like, well, that's great. This sexy convertible is hot. But can I just ask you a question? Why do you need a new car? Oh, well, my job or my this or my that or my company. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, this car is going to make you feel really good until you have to use it for work, and then it's not going to serve the purpose. Yeah, but I always wanted a convertible. I know, I understand, but what about this pickup truck over here? Because you got to carry some tools and supplies, and let me show you what this could do for you. Well, now you're helping that person dial in what they really need. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to help you figure out what's going to get you to that end in mind. You need a reliable vehicle that can help you with your work. Why don't we look at that? He blew all the other salespeople away because they're out there trying to twist people's arms and doing all their little, gimmicky sales tricks. And he was just having legitimate conversations with people going, what would actually scratch the itch? Yep, that's what I need, and that's what I can afford. Let's do it.
That's a good point. And I think most people in sales are trained to satisfy the want before they satisfy the need, because that's the emotional hot button. And I guess people are trained. There's probably why there's a lot of rescissions, and people come back and say, yeah, I know I really wanted this, but when I got it home, I realized I don't need it. I needed. So if somebody would have gone deeper from the beginning, they would have had a more long-lasting relationship with that individual. So let's talk about this interdependence.
That's where the synergy would come in a scenario like what we're talking about, that the two parties came together, the outcome was pleasant and good for both parties. The guy got the car he needed, the salesman got the commission he needed, and now there's a much greater likelihood, if that person needed another vehicle, that he would come back and go, oh, Bob's the one who sold me this truck, and he was so cool to work with. He made me feel so good about buying that truck. If Bob is talking to someone, oh yeah, I need to buy a car. Oh, you got to go talk to this guy.
Yeah, I get you. So he's built a relationship now that's going to create, and I think that's an important thing, of course, for anybody who's in sales and who isn't, in one way or another, is remembering the long-term value of a client, not just the initial transaction. It's building it up for that long-term relationship, because the real profitability comes over the long haul, right?
Right. And so that's why I say it's sometimes difficult to point at what exactly the synergy is, because it might be 1, 2, 3 years later that something good comes out of that transaction, but the good thing that came out of it is part of a synergistic outcome. It's more than just what happened initially.
It's taken those extra steps to go deeper in the relationship and really understand the why, so you can help satisfy the why within, right? That makes so much sense. That's great. That really makes so much sense. And you talk about interdependence in there a little bit. What is interdependence?
I do a physical demonstration that's a little bit hard to describe over the phone, but let me attempt it. You can have two people standing in front of one another, doing kind of like a patty cake thing, palm of the hand to palm of the hand, and they can go back and forth. If either of them or both of them drop their hands, there's no recoil. Nothing happens. Well, now you do the same thing, but have each of them take, a half a step back. Oh, now there's a little bit more tension between the hands. So now, if one of the people was to pull their hands away, the other person is going to feel that vibration, because they're a little bit off balance. Now you
Okay.
put them together, and I love doing this in front of a live audience or in a training. Now you have them take a gigantic step back where the tension between the hands is palpable, and you've got like an A-frame ladder kind of a setup. If either one lets go or pulls back, you both go down. It's not like one person can walk away unscathed. We're now in this together. That's the most demonstrable example of an interdependent relationship that I've come up with. So then you look at that and go, okay, so in the work environment, how would we create that? Well, I did really great, but Jack over here didn't do so good. That's not interdependent. You look at more of a special forces mindset, all in this together. And if we agreed on a plan of action, we all bought into it. I don't care whose idea it was, we bought into it. If it was a good idea, great. Why was it a good idea? If it wasn't such a good idea, why did we buy into it, and what could we do differently if we were fortunate enough to come out of the mission alive? I think that kind of thinking in business, we don't have to be, special forces type people, but that kind of strategic thinking, wow, we were in this together. Our department made a decision together. The executive team made a decision together, and we're going to stick by it. If it was a bad decision, great. We will all learn from it rather than the infighting and throwing somebody under the bus. Well, that was his or her dumb idea. I told you we should have never done that. Yeah, but we did. And are we as a team going to get stronger? Are we going to maintain that integrity of a synergistic culture by always getting better?
I love that. And I love that analogy. And it reminds me also of for instance, a football play where in the huddle, you're saying, okay, you're going to run down the sideline 20 yards up the field and cut across the middle. I'm going to throw the ball to the middle of the field. We don't have time to check or make sure that's going to, during the play, it's going to be pandemonium while we're actually doing the action, but I'm going to throw the ball there. You're going to be there, right? Right. Okay. And then you implement the play. So it's based on faith that each of the parties is going to be taking care of their part of the bargain, their part of the play. And that's how it's all going to come together. Makes a lot of sense.
Now you're the receiver and you weren't where I expected you to be. And so the play didn't work. I can go off on you, the whole team can go off on you, everybody can go off on you because you screwed up. Or we could look at it and go, okay, what happened? Well, on my way to getting to the X on the board I was supposed to be, I encountered this and this. Oh, well, let's factor that information in so the next time we call for this play, we're a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser to going, okay, if in the event you run into interference, let's do this instead. Okay, let's do it. So now there's no stuff on you having failed. It's we as a team can do better. And if business teams would do that, if they would think that way more often, they would keep getting better and better. Now, if someone doesn't want to be part of a team that's always getting better, then maybe they're not the right person for the team. And we see it in sports all the time that at the end of every season, certain players leave and certain other players come on board. It's not because they don't understand the game. These are the best people in the world at that game. But they're not creating the team dynamic that could help the team win more games more often.
And in fact, some of those people could be resisting that interdependence, or the company could be resisting it. Why do people resist that?
Okay, this gets into something deeper where if I've got a bias against you because of your age, because of your gender, because of your nationality, because of your religion, your sexual orientation, it's easier for me to keep you at a distance if I have to deal with you at all. If I start letting you get a little bit closer, it's going to start to affect me. Okay, well, there's things about you that I don't like, that I don't agree with, that go against my core beliefs, but I'm starting to get to know you, and you're a pretty cool guy, and we work pretty well together, and if we keep going down that path, I'm going to get to a point where I might have to rethink my bias. Now what am I going to do? I've spent my whole life hating people like you, and now there's one of you that I kind of like. Now what?
Right.
So
Now I've got to
think
change.
that's why, and this is my 2 cents. I think that's why we resist intimacy, why we resist interdependence, because if we really started to interconnect with people in an open-minded, open-hearted, productive way, it might start changing our baseline beliefs about a whole lot of, and what I'm on about is in the business world, nobody is hiring you saying, okay, and we expect you to have sex with people of the same gender, that we expect you to go to church with this or that person. That is not happening. You don't have to become best friends with someone that's decades older or younger than you. You just have to work well together in the workplace environment. And I can't think of a good reason why any mature person can't do that. It doesn't matter who you are at home, what church or temple you go to, who you sleep with. It doesn't matter. That's not what we are doing here right now. We're working on this project.
Right.
So let's bring the important things. What is it that you bring to the table? Well, you bring some significant talents to the table once I can get the biases off the table.
Makes a ton of sense. Barry, we're running low on time, but it's a pleasure. It's always great to have you on the show. You explain things so clearly. I can see why you're a much in demand speaker for Vistage International and other groups. And I love the way you clarified some very important things about synergy and interdependence today. And I'd love to have you back another time. How do our listeners best get in touch with you?
They can find me at endinmind.com. And all of my contact information and social media information is there. Love connecting with people and sharing ideas, because the more I learn about other people, the better I get at what I do.
Well, it's fantastic to have you on again. I look forward to the next time we speak, and thanks so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me. I love it.
All right, Greg, Barry, thanks. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this. Please stay with us.
Business owners, if you came back from lunch and there was a resignation letter on your desk, which employee would you really not want it to be from? What are you doing to prevent this from happening? At Exit and Retirement Strategies, we design plans that attract, motivate, and retain key employees. For a free consultation, call Bill Black, the Exit Coach, at 866-370-3774. Call today.
Does thinking about what will happen to your business if you're gone keep you awake at night? Will you get the price you need from your business to carry you through retirement? The BEI Network of Exit Planning Professionals is the world's leading advisor network with the power to help business owners transition out of business on their own timeline and terms. Ask your most trusted advisor to create a BEI plan for you, or visit us at exitplanning.com. That's exitplanning.com.
Thank you for listening to Exit Coach Radio.